Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So, here's another interview, another author, another friend that I get to chat with and talk about the writing journey. So, today I have Greg with me. I'll give him a chance to introduce himself, let us know who you are and what you do.
I am Greg Wooley, and what do I do? I do a lot of things, but one of them being I write poetry. I write Rise and Shine poetry. I am the co-founder and chairman of the board of Florida Recovery Schools of Central Florida, and that means a lot to me. I want to be, I guess, foremost and most of all, I'm a child of God, and I want to be a difference maker, and so I want to make a difference through my writing, through my life, through my actions, and through my deeds. And so one of the ways I do that is by writing poetry every day, and I just try to get with God and ask Him to flow through me, and I hope He does. Sometimes He seems to, sometimes He doesn't, but I just want to have my life, matter for something for God in this kingdom.
Yeah, yeah. And you do that well, my friend. You do that well. So, you do a lot of other things. You're a dad and you have a business outside of writing. So, how did you get into writing?
I sent you that video the other day because I was
Yeah.
thinking about that. You know, with being a roofing contractor, and I've been an active roofer most of my life, writing really wasn't in my forte.
Hmm, hmm.
With being a troubled young person, I wasn't a I wasn't a really good student in school, so I English and writing was beyond me.
Mhm,
I didn't have a whole lot to do with it. But with that being said, I also had a thing in me that liked to write, like sing songs whenever the girls were little, especially. Every Christmas song I had a parody for, and I would
mm,
write all these little rhymey things, and I always my writing, I would have said, originally would have been songs, because
mhm.
I had that rhythm, that poetic rhythm, and but I can't really sing. so
You
uh
can write songs. Other people will sing it for you, right?
Right, and that's what I was really hoping for. One day, I'm going to catch somebody who wants to sing my poems. But
Mhm,
so going down that route, the Great Recession came, and we were so far in debt then that it
mm,
wiped us out. It was a very painful thing, and then not only that, the year after, like, all the work here stopped, so there wasn't anything in
mhm,
construction at all. But the year after that, I came down with diverticulitis, and I perforated. So I ended up I I don't even have I still don't have a family doctor, but I hadn't been to the
mhm,
doctor anything in years then, and I ended up in the hospital for a total of about 8 weeks that year.
wow,
But
wow.
it was like my near death experience, and I was like,
Mhm,
you got all these songs in your head. You're always singing a song of this sort or another. All these little things in your head that you could be and should be sharing with the world. And even if it was just for the sake of sharing them with my kids, and my grandkids, I wanted to get
mhm,
them out. So it was whenever I was in that hospital with a tube up my nose, and just miserable. I was like, if I died
mhm.
today, no one would even know I was here, kind of thing. And that's
Yeah.
I started. I made a commitment to start writing every day then.
Wow, wow. And you and I have more in common that we both realized that I've been writing when I was younger and as a child, and just writing poetry, writing songs, and it all stayed in my journal. And I think the first time actually someone noticed my writing, I was in fourth grade. I actually won an award for it, and I'm like, oh, then that's
Mm,
fine. And no, what else? Life goes on. And it wasn't until I went through a near-death experience that I actually started taking my writing seriously. For me, it was a stroke just like 3 years ago. I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, and I couldn't do the work that I used to do. So I was literally stuck in bed. And the only thing I could do was pull my computer and start writing. And
mhm,
now, 3 years later, I don't know, 20 some books and so many of you that I published as well. And it's just only God, right? And
yeah,
sometimes we find ourselves in those places where we have no choice but to pick up those things that God is calling us to do. Because not that
right,
God caused it, but He knew that we had to be confined to folk to pay attention. So yeah.
right.
Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for writing. I know, not just because I'm your publisher and help you with your writing, but also because I just genuinely love your poetry. And there's not many people out there who actually write every day just for the sake of writing.
Right.
And you do that,
And and
honestly.
as my publisher, you're like, don't give them all away. I'm like, I have to. You don't understand. I have to.
Yeah,
And I tried to slow down and not post them every day, but I just feel the
and
need
that's okay. And like when
to,
you're posting though, like I've seen you're writing poetry every day, you're posting it. It's not like you're giving them a whole book and like, and that's what I was saying, don't give them everything. Like I don't want you to put a whole book out there when you're still writing, you're still publishing and wanting it, want to sell as well. So it's
right,
finding that balance. And I know for those of us, those of us who are Christian and want to serve, that's a continual, it's a dance that we always play with. It's like one is too much, one is too
right,
little, because you want to
right.
serve
Yeah,
and still make a living. So I totally get
where
that.
does the money come in, and where does the this is my gift from God, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
I want to share it with the world.
yeah. And I think, you know, you do it well. Like I said earlier, you are sharing your gift to the world. You are sharing your poetry with all of us to enjoy. And many times I'll see I'll see what you post. I'll share in some of the groups. I even now start texting it to friends. I take screenshots.
Right. Well,
There's one,
well,
yeah, and you
because
never know that. I have a friend who actually,
the thing was whenever I started out and I was like this closet poet,
nobody
and I
knew.
would text them with a friend or two, and that I wouldn't put them out. I wouldn't put them
Mhm,
out in the
mhm.
world, and I got where I'm like, oh my gosh, I must be such a bother. And then some people have contacted me back, and they say, why don't you send me them anymore? but but it used to be that I would just text them to individuals. I wouldn't post them out, and risk the embarrassment of of putting them in front of people and having them
Mhm,
you know
mhm.
comment or whatever. So I was very shy about it at first.
Yeah, yeah. And I think all of us started that way, just not sure. And then others, appreciate that gift in you, and you're like, oh, now I can't keep it to myself, right? I actually had a coach tell me years back, he said, if you had a cure for cancer, you would not hide it under your bed.
Right,
You would
right,
shout it from the rooftop so everybody know. Just like for us with our faith, because we know how much, Christ has done for us, we can't keep quiet, right? So it's the same
right,
thing, those gifts that he's given us, we can't keep it to ourselves. We actually do the world a disservice when we don't share our work with them, because
right.
share the gifts that we have. So
Yeah,
thank you for sharing your gift. We're all grateful for that.
yeah. Well, thank you, and thank you for saying that because it means a lot. It means a lot to me.
Yeah. So when you do write, and then for you it's every day, every morning you're cracking up poetry like it's nobody's business. So how did you get into the flow? Like where do you find your inspiration for
Well,
writing?
and I don't know how much you know about alcoholism and all that business, but in the alcohol literature, it talks about us needing a daily reprieve. That we're not cured, that we have a spiritual malady, that the only cure is a daily reprieve. And
Hmm.
so for me, whenever I'm not connecting with God, getting into the Bible, getting into the spiritual stuff, I get depressed. I mean, I get like, why
Hmm.
am I here? I don't have any purpose, and I lose sight of it all. And if I'm not, and I share them with the world, but in the end, I do it for me. So how I work in the morning is I like take my medicine, my
Yeah,
prayer and
yeah.
meditation. I get up and I read the verse. I usually go to the verse of the day, and then I read about. Sometimes it depends on how much of a hurry I'm in, but usually I read about six other things. A lot of times, if Monica's here, I'll share them with her,
Hmm.
and we'll read together, and then I don't spend like 3 days on it or anything. I usually can write a poem. Once I see, like, I'll be in Psalms or something will click, and I take, and it'll kind of just flows. So I go to the Bible first, and
Yeah.
then go to some other stuff. But and then I read a lot, and I listen to a lot of other audios during the day too. So I
Hmm.
if I would have had my rathers, I didn't really want to be like the poet kind of guy. I wanted to be the leader guy, because I read a bazillion pages of leader stuff, and I
Hmm.
hope to
Hmm.
fall back to poetry. I want to be
Hmm.
more of a teacher and a leader and a helper and all the healer, all that as my life progresses is my hope. But whether God has that in for me or not,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I know you are working towards that, right? And honestly, you are a natural leader, and and I see that in you, and I believe that God has a path for that. And I know recently you started for the training to become a certified master life coach, like over one of my clients as well. So I can't wait to see you, be done with that, and even using that as your leadership platform, and and coaching others.
Right, and that's what I want to, I really just want to make a difference, and I want to partner with people like you and other people that are standing to make a difference, an everyday difference. I think that a lot of the stuff that you put out is really going to make a long term difference, in the mental health, and the I quit, all the stuff.
Hmm.
I think that it's going to be a great long term partnership and a meaningful thing for a lot of people, and what you're doing too.
Oh, thank you. And together we do make a difference, right? All the
Right,
things that I do it because I have all of you doing it with me. It
right.
definitely is a group, group effort for sure. Um,
And it kind of flows and blossoms off of each other too, because
exactly.
if yeah, if because I was frustrated with the process, before we met. I was like, everybody tells you everything, and and then they yeah, and you just get these promises that
Hmm.
don't work
Hmm.
out, and yeah, and yeah, it's a rough road to figure out,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm glad that you had a better experience when you came working with us, and definitely it's a joy to be continue to support you in your writing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what advice would you have for new authors, people who are getting into writing, or maybe they're hesitant into getting into writing?
Right. I would say, for me, the process tends to be overwhelming. So one, don't make it into writing a book right from the beginning.
Hmm.
Start little bits of writing every day. Always try to have your phone or something with you whenever you have that thought.
Hmm.
And and I do it all the time when I don't have it with
Hmm.
me, that I don't write it down, and it passes too quickly, and you have this
Yeah,
great
yeah.
inspirational moment, even if it's just a couple words out of it, then I can remember it later on. But to keep something with me to take notes on whatever I'm thinking about, because uh, there are a lot of little things that I write during the day that I come back to later on. So I would say start writing every day. Don't try to make it a book right from the beginning, and
Hmm.
then find the right people to partner with, and that's the greatest thing too. I mean, like your collaborations for people, I think is the greatest gateway, that if you could find, if you that you could find to getting your first book out and starting to build your audience. And I think that's the other thing, is to start putting it in front of people. And that one that you talked about, and I didn't like the whole article. I can't remember what the article was called, but where it talked about putting something in front of people every day. And I think
Hmm.
that if
Hmm.
we can put little pieces in front of people every day, people start to want to hear what we say. And I think
Right.
that no matter who you are or where you've been, you have a story to tell. I mean, and we all have our stories, and I
Yes.
think that and especially if you've overcome something. I mean, it makes it,
Hmm.
it's a
Hmm.
gift that's meant to be given away.
Right, right, yeah. And I think many of the old authors that I've been interviewing, we all been saying the same thing. Like you have to start writing. Don't think too much into it. Just write. Once you get started writing, it becomes easier, and then you get into the flow more often, more easily. But also, like what you said, finding people to partner with. You don't have to do it alone.
Right, and
And
make
I
it
tell,
make it make it a discipline, because
yes.
that's the important part for me too. Is that whenever I look back to the stuff that I was writing 7 years ago, I mean, it's come a long way, and I think that constant polishing, makes it so whenever you do have these creative moments, that if you write whenever you don't feel like it, and then whenever you do feel like it, I mean, those moments, I mean, flow so much nicer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So what are you working on right now? I know you write poetry every day, and then, who knows, all of them later on become turns into a book. But what do you have a project in mind right now that you're working
Well,
on?
I have the book that I really want to bring out and sort of a mindset poetry thing and make
Mhm.
because I've done the three for the Rise and Shine series, but I want to do some more mindset leadership type stuff,
Yes.
and then maybe venture into writing something along the lines of teaching, and then my big one for next year is I really want to do an autobiography if I can
Yes.
stand the
Oh,
courage to do it all, because
you
that
can.
I,
You have the discipline. Honestly, you're one of the most disciplined writer I know. And it's even you're more disciplined than I am in writing. Actually, you inspire me to write. I was talking to another friend recently about like I when I started writing, I was writing poetry, but then when I started publishing, I've not published any poetry for myself at all. And just recently, I picked up poetry again. I'm writing literally a poem every day that I've never shared with anybody else, and
mm,
it's because of you. So thank you for inspiring me. So
thank you.
honestly, I know you have the discipline to do it, and I can't wait to I only know bits and pieces of story, and I can't wait to to read that biography. And I think also with all the leadership stuff, your mindset thing, it's this is for all of us. Like when you're niching into um a business focus or field or ministry or whatever it is that you feel called to do, writing a book on that topic helps you advance that goal, because not only it establishes you as an authority in that field, it gives you credibility, but also builds your increase your visibility, because now it's not just people that that you're doing this work with. Now this book is out there for everybody to know you are, you know what you have a place, if you want, in that space, in that field. So
Mhm.
yeah, that would be a really good one to even use as a way to launch into the whole leadership and coaching um business, so ministry, all of that.
Right.
Awesome. So before I let you go here, a couple more questions. So you've been writing for a while now. This, you just published, not just, but a few weeks back, published your third book in your Rise and Shine poetry series. What is something that you know now that you wish you knew then when you first started writing?
Um, I, I, I wish that that I could just let that liar and just shut him up. That I'm not good enough and I'm not capable enough, and that my stuff really doesn't have any value, because that's what I do to myself. I go into these head
Hmm.
games
Hmm.
of oh, it's you don't really, no one really wants to hear you, and I've
Yeah.
never gotten, the thing is, I've never really got a bad response, and the only one who does it to me is me.
Yes, we do it to
And so,
ourselves. Yeah.
right, just to shut up that liar and just do it,
Hmm.
because that's what I had one friend of mine say is, don't you even try to judge your work. Let somebody else judge it, because the ones that I'm convinced are the best ones, no one likes, and maybe they
Hmm.
will later. And the
Yeah.
ones that I
Yeah.
go, this is crap,
And then the rest of us are like, this
yeah,
is good.
it's great. It amazes me, So I
Yeah.
just write. I try to just write them, and I try to just be obedient to God. And I guess that would be the big lesson, is just be obedient, because
Yes.
I really think that He whispers to me, and
Hmm.
so.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we are our worst critics for sure. And that's also why it's important to be with others who are kind of working on the same goals per se, like that, having a community of writers that, we have the Purposeful Writers Collective, where you can put your poetry there. Everybody's reading it and encouraging you. And you're like, oh, it is actually good, because you have
Right,
people who,
right.
extra eyes and, extra minds to read it and, appreciate it. And I think that for all of us, that helps all of us do more of what we're called to do when we have a tribe, if you want, to do it with us and to support us on that journey. Definitely. Yeah. And is there I know you talked a lot about, your faith and spending time with God, how that inspires you. Is there anything else that kind of helped you along the way in your writing journey?
Well, because my wife has been my biggest cheerleader. You
Yeah,
got to get a
yeah.
book out. You got to get a book out. You got to get a book out, and so she's really pushed me along. But one of my other favorite people in the whole wide world passed away 2 years
Mhm.
ago, and he was one of the first ones he was my sponsor, and he was one of the ones that I started sending them to, because if you would have read mine years ago, I tried to do the poetic thing where they were so mysterious that you
Hmm.
couldn't,
Hmm. Hmm.
you had to scratch your head and think about them, and
What's he talking about? Yeah.
right, like most poets are. I mean, because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I don't like
True.
about other people's poetry. If it doesn't touch me, without spending 2 days trying to figure out what you were talking about, then people will pass it by. But he was the one who pushed me, because I was sending them to him every day, and he would help me bring them back. I don't understand what you're talking about. You need more clarity. If you want to touch
Mm-hmm.
people, you got to be clear. Bring it down so the rest of us can get it without it being some big mystery. So he was a big part of me, of bringing it down to where, because I think that and not to brag on myself, I think my
Hmm.
poetry is made for every person can get value out of it if they
Yes,
would read it.
I
And i
agree.
think i think that that a lot of other poets of sort, their stuff goes over everybody's head, and if you don't sit and think about it, for long periods of time. But
Hmm.
I think that whenever God has me in the zone, I reach in and I touch your hurt spot, and I
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
there's hope and there's healing, and that's
Yeah.
that's so.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for
Ron,
sharing
Ron,
that.
yeah, Ron and Monica have been the biggest advocates, or however you want to say that, of me,
Hmm. Hmm.
putting it out in front of people, where I was, I was like, I'm not good enough, whatever.
We all need people to push us for sure. And I
Yeah.
have enjoyed just, I've never talked to your wife, Monica, but I enjoyed getting her input on the books that we've done, when we're going back and forth with the cover, or, a
Right.
graphic or something. Like, no, Monica like this one. I was like, yeah, I like her that one too. So
Right.
it's good to see that, you have that partner, not just, in marriage, but also in this call that God had given you. And it's important. It's important to know that you're not doing it alone.
Yeah.
Although
Because
you're the one
she's
writing, but
she's
you
the
have that
one
friend
she's the
that's
one
going
who
to
usually who gets them first, so yeah, so
awesome. So where can people find you?
oh, they can find me at gregwooley.com, or Greg Wooley Poetry on Facebook, and just been, Greg Wooley on Facebook. That's pretty much it. I got Instagram, but unless I'm running an ad or something,
Hmm.
I'm not really diligent about
Yeah.
posting out there. So
Oh, thank you. We will be sharing that with this video. We'll share your bio and the link to your website, and and your Facebook page as well, so people can just click on it and go check it out. Thank you
awesome,
so
thank you.
much, Greg. It's such a pleasure and honor to be part of your team and to know you and call you friend.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you guys on my team for sure too. I pray you blessed and a blessing, Shu.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Have a good night, and yeah,
Thanks.
okay, thank
Bye.
you. My best to your family. Is it snowing? Is it snowing up there?